Hey man, I see we back in the world of The Simpsons, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's we got to play a bit of pool and keep our spirits up at the moment.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm cool. I'm having a fantastically productive day and some very inspiring conversations. So yeah, I'm
Cool,
feeling good.
cool. So I've been doing these talks and just speaking to people I consider who have some sort of interest in music industry and even in your case the event industry. And I was going through your history, and you've done so much that it's overwhelming to know where to start. So if you could just give a quick background about how, like, your story, so how, where you started, and then how you got into the industry of music and events.
I started quite haphazardly, um, and I think that's common for quite a few of us who get in. Like
Yeah.
the 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 passion for music just kind of like ends us up somewhere. I started throwing a couple of promotional events for a clothing brand, culture brand that I created called Circus Ninja.
Yeah.
That then turned into opening a store and a gallery space where we would throw monthly exhibition openings with lowbrow artists, so street artists, graffiti artists, like young up and coming photographers.
Okay.
Um, and then I got poached to go work for a new venue that opened in Cape Town, which is where I'm from,
Yeah.
called The Assembly.
Okay.
Yeah, that threw me into the deep end, really. Like, Assembly was new live venue. It was the biggest venue in Cape Town. It was like 1,000 capacity at a push. We operated 45 nights a week, live music and electronic. And we built a bit of a strong formula there. So we had fantastic live entertainment, and we built up a few electronic brands, and really helped become a little bit of a pillar for the local scene. It was a fantastic time. From there, I moved into booking and working on the production side of South Africa's major festival, Rocking the Daisies.
Yeah.
Um, Again, the first year I went as a volunteer just to see what was beyond the assembly, and kind of built up there I was the talent manager and entertainment manager for 10 years. At the same time, I worked for the brand Seed, who was the company that owned the festival.
Yeah.
And we did a bunch of other international headline tours, and we brought Sonar to South Africa. We did Ben Howard, the Lumineers of Monsters and Men, Jungle. So a lot of fun shows, Bastille.
I think, well, I always saw Rocking the Daisies as a, like, at least from someone all the way out in Beirut, I saw it as, like, really an event that looked so gorgeous already to start with, but at the same time, the level of artists that were on display. And we'll get into something later, but I'm really curious about your approach with brands, because I think you have a really, really good approach with them. And we'll get into that later. But yeah, so the thing with Rock, well, all of Seed Experience events were very well marketed, if you will. So I followed all of them because of you. So through you, I started following, whether it was Rocking the Daisies, Vic Falls, all of them. So I saw the Sonar Cape Town thing as well. I went to a couple of shows there in South Africa when I went, but I'm not sure it was organized by you guys. But I saw how things worked there, and I realized that you guys have had, I don't know how it is today, but I know that it was really, really, like, top notch. So from Seed Experiences, how did you, like? Because I have a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a beginning part of your career which is more related to the art scene, the, you know, like knocking on doors, figuring stuff out, trying to build up the urban scene. Then there was a turning point and something happened, and you switched into the event scene and took on a whole different level up there. So I want to know, what's this turning point?
Yeah. Well, the turning point was from the bin store and gallery to assembly. I think that was a major turning point, because that was really where I got sucked into the wormhole of music and events. I dabbled and I'd like used it as part of the cultural activities that we did. But yeah, once I hit the ground at assembly, I never looked back.
Okay. And so after, there's also something I've noticed in all your work, is that at no point were you like an employee with someone. It was always an initiative that you took. Either you're the founder of something or the partner in something, or a collaborative approach. And I wanted to know, how come this was the case? Like, how come you were never like employee? What led you to this type of moving forward, you know?
Well, yeah. So I was employed at the assembly.
Okay.
And I was employed at Seed. However, I guess I tend to just grab the bull by the horns and just run with things. And like I like to make things happen. I like to connect and I like to produce. So with assembly, it grew to a point where I wasn't employed anymore by them, and we were working in collaboration, and we formed a little agency that managed the calendar. And with Rocking the Daisies, initially I wasn't employed with Seed, but it grew to a point where I moved to Johannesburg and we opened the Johannesburg office. We consolidated them and built the Johannesburg office, and I was employed in that part of the process. And then again, I moved into a freelance capacity when the Joburg office closed, and Rocking the Daisies being once a year, there just wasn't enough to keep it rolling as a full-time thing. So I guess a bit of ambition, and it's a bit of like just proactivity, and a bit of like, yeah, just wanting to do things, wanting to be involved, wanting to make stuff happen, which has led me to like where I am now, I guess. Also, you know, is so I moved over to the Netherlands last year, April, which is another.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Like, how come you moved? Like, what was the reasoning behind it? And what are you? And then tell us more about what you're doing at the moment out there.
I've been spending the European summer months over in the UK, working with some fantastic partners, friends, to devise, execute, and implement brand activations at some major festivals. The time spent over here was fantastic when I was younger. When I started a family, it became a little bit more difficult. You know, I've got young kids, and spending 5 months away. First of all, spending 5 months away for them and for me was very difficult. But also from a family perspective, the pressure that it put on my wife it was unacceptable, really. So we decided to move. You know, we believe that for the family, the opportunity is much greater here. The kids have integrated into the Dutch society incredibly fast. For my wife's career also, there's fantastic opportunity, which I've been hungry for a long time, I guess.
Okay, so have you completely like left behind everything in South Africa work-wise, as in everything that you had built before? Did you just let it go, or are you still you always have a foot in South Africa in the back of your mind, trying to do things?
I've still got a foot. last year I went back a couple of times to work on events, and I've still got great friends and partnerships, businesses that I do fantastic stuff with. And it's where I come from. So moving over here, I've actually and setting up the Good Times Co. I've brought a lot of it with me now. And the Good Times Co. for me is like a fantastic natural progression of all the work that I've done in South Africa, and creating a new opportunity for it and a new impetus for it within a European context.
Yeah. So tell us more about the Good Times Co. Like, what is it? What do you do? How has that started? And how many are you doing this alone, or do you have people with you, or how does it work?
It's always a collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always like a mishmash of bringing together of people. And with the Good Times Co., I've taken a step into the other side of the industry, I guess. I've spent a lot of time as a promoter and as a booker for events, and as a producer of events. And now with the Good Times Co., I'm moving more into management, bookings, and even label services.
Okay. For South African artists, or for any type of artists from everywhere?
We have a focus on South African artists at this point. Again, it's a natural progression from where I come from. I think there's a great hunger on both sides of the fence. So South African artists really, there's great hunger as well as great talent and great potential. And over here, there's interest in South African music and South African artists. The Europeans have a wonderful openness to discovery.
And so just going back to your previous work in South Africa, I was mentioning how I noticed you do a lot of work with brands. And it's actually something that even when I look at many other places around the world, I've rarely seen brand activations that are that well produced and not in your face. So it means it never feels like it's too much. And this is from someone who's far away, watching on a screen, watching, how it's being promoted on social media. So I wanted to see, like, what's your approach with brands as a promoter, as an event organizer, or as a venue? How do you go about it to them? Are you selling them an idea and they're funding the idea, or are they the ones who are getting the ticket sales, or what's the formula that you do with brands in general?
So in a South African context, and I think it may be similar in Lebanon and in many other territories also, events often aren't possible without the support of brands. Ticket sales just don't cover the cost, and the risk is just so high. So brands form a very, very important part of the event ecosystem. And what I've always tried to do, and what the people around me have always tried to do, is to find cohesive brand relationships and to integrate the brands organically into the events. I think it's really important, and it's a method for success when a brand fits the event as opposed to forces its way onto the event. So we try and look for brands and work with brands, and we're privileged to work with a lot of brands that get that, that believe in the culture as opposed to just profiteering off of the culture. So yeah, I think the stable of brands that we work with, we spent a lot of time cultivating those relationships and the understanding, and I cannot take credit for a lot of that. I work with a fantastic group of people, and the Beanstalk is somebody who, if you look at my work, you see I've worked with in various spheres for a long time. And Elaine of the Beanstalk is someone that, like, I've spent a lot of time working. He essentially brought me overseas to work on a lot of the activations that he produces over here. And yeah, it's a lot of conversation, and it's a lot of time and investment in creating brand understandings and finding the brands that we believe we can have these relationships with. And I think also so to cut to the way that we do it, there's quite a lot of pitch involved in it. So sometimes a brand will approach us and say, hey, we want to get involved, or we want to do this kind of show, or we want to do something. Other times we'll have an event concept, and we'll sit and we'll go, well, these are the 15 brands we think can work with it. And we'll pitch to the brands, and we'll work with them to figure out how to integrate them into the event naturally.
Okay.
To come up with activation ideas that are engaging.
Do you think that this same approach that you had for brands towards events can be implemented from brands towards artists in today's context, meaning that there's no live music at the moment, or at least there are little gigs here and there, but I mean, the live music industry has kind of taken a halt now. But do you think there's a way for brands to have a role in an artist's career, and especially artists who are emerging and don't have a following, and they're at that little, not starting point, but like they're just not massive, and they're not like in the middle area of having, I don't know, filling out 1,000 capacity venues, but those little artists, what can they do in your opinion with brands? Since you worked with so many brands, do you think that it's something that they can use to approach each other?
So what's been incredibly interesting for me, and what I've been trying to figure out, is how to create a pitch for brands that can build like little that can build opportunities, that can build homes for artists. There's a couple of folds. I think the live streaming is incredible, and like what you were doing with the Beirut Jam sessions is amazing, and what Tourmaline is doing with Allo from home, and now taking that to the next step is incredible. But it's not making a lot of money for anybody, and it's a lot of energy, and like it's very challenging to produce a certain quality of. So I think there's an incredible opportunity for brands to step in and to fill that space and that gap, and to really support. I think it's very difficult for brands to support individually. But I think if we're able to create like a home for brands where we do the work for the artists, and we're able to support the artists through the support of the brands that we're getting, there's a very good ecosystem to develop out of that.
Even do you think that's the case, even if the visibility isn't high? So I mean, if a brand looks at, I don't know, I'll give the example of when we did the Beirut Jam Sessions Instagram Fest. So I would say the first week there was, on average, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 people watching per live stream. But at the time, Instagram had the 24 hours thing, which they don't anymore. Now you automatically get it on as a post on your page right after that you're done with the stream. But at the time, over the 24 hours, I would notice that we were getting up to 1,000 views. Who knows what the formula is? Is it after a second, after 3 seconds? I'm not too sure. That's always a bit tricky. But at this point, if a brand looks at a page and sees 10 videos and each one has 150 or 200 views, do you still think it's interesting for them? Do you think it's something they would look into and say, let's go for these guys? Is it more of a quantity game of having hundreds of videos of 150 or 200 views, or having 3 or 4 big booming videos? What do you think that brands would look at?
I like to think that there's space for both. I think that there's an opportunity for brands to get involved in a way that shows their authenticity and their like true support, their true nature. And those are the brands that can build the stories, that can get involved on the ground floor and be a part of a process, understanding the longer term potential and the long term goal. And let's stick with the example of the Beirut Jam Sessions. If like a brand that got involved in the beginning there, they would have really seen the value over the 7 or 8 weeks that you produced that. They would have seen the growth. They would have been part of those 150 artists, and it's so I think that's the one side. The other side is that there are a few opportunities for brands to get involved in a bigger, stronger, more ambitious event structure. And again, those are the structures where we have an opportunity to put on 40 artists in a day from across the world, that we've never had before.
Yeah, yeah. Which brings me to my next question, which is, how do you see it evolving at the moment? The live event industry, so gigs, festivals, tours. What do you feel is the next step at the moment, in your opinion?
It's difficult to say. I read an interesting thought this morning, which was, there's like this rise in illegal raves and sort of illegal like park parties and stuff, and will that lead to governments reaching out to event organizers to start creating organized structures because they're safer? Maybe that's a thing, a route that's going to start happening. I think one thing that is evident is that a lot of festivals, a lot of bricks and mortar events always had this ambition of live streaming, and that's going to be that digital integration is going to be much stronger, and much more regular.
Yeah,
I think we're at a very interesting space right now where like we're reaching a saturation point on live streaming in so many forms, and we're going to see a couple of more institutionalized forms shaping up, like digital venue styles.
Okay, that's and I never thought of it. I never thought that could happen, but it's a good idea. I mean, digital venues, digital festivals, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what I really like about the digital world right now is that we're truly seeing the reality of engaging with artist fan bases.
Yeah.
It's like, you following a band from South Africa, they're posting, hey, we're streaming tonight. You can finally watch them perform, where all you've had before is to enjoy their music, to stream their music, to watch, an after video. Or so I really like that opportunity.
So for artists, be it from South Africa or here, what would you, if you had to give them, like, not advice, but just guidance right now, like something that they're not seeing in the current situation, which is for once a global situation. Suddenly it's a level playing field for everyone from Beyonce to the smallest artist out there. No one is able to do proper live gigs. So what would you give them as advice at this current time? That knowing that everything we tell them today is going to impact 1 year from now.
The first thing I would say is take a breath. I think there's a massive drive and a massive impatience at the moment, because we're all on our screens, we're all on social media, we're all seeing 1,000 artists going live or launching this next thing or releasing this track, and you may not be right there, and I think that's okay. So continue to work a strategy. Don't be so impatient just to get that track out, to do this, to be part of this live streaming thing, to work a strategy, build, develop, engage with artists that are in a similar space, in a similar audience space to you. Look for opportunities within your local community, as in, reach out to the promoters that you used to work with, reach out to the publications, to other artists, discuss what's happening around you, and discuss how you can be stronger together. I think, like I was saying with the saturation, it's fantastic that there's so much going on, but what used to be a challenge in the live scene in Cape Town was that it's a super small scene, and you would have 3 or 4 events with indie bands in different venues on the same night, and each of those bands would be marketing to the same audience, and each of those bands would be selling the same tickets, so you would get 20-30 people at a show. Where if those artists had combined and done one bigger show with a more cohesive marketing campaign, maybe a stronger ticket price. They would have had 150, 200 people that would have been selling out their shows. And I think it's similar now. While it's important to go live on your own, I think like a great example for me is Freestyle Fridays, which is a thing that Stogie T, a hip hop artist in South Africa, has been doing. He's been going live with artists on a Freestyle Friday, and he's been developing this whole thing of bringing the scene together. And I think that's such an important thing to do at the moment.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah. I think, like I said at the start of this conversation, I've had a very inspiring morning. I've had some great conversations, and that's a big part also. Is like just communicate, just have conversations, just talk and engage, and like it's such a fantastic opportunity to do this. Like we've all got a little bit more capacity to communicate with each other. Like for me, I love hearing new artists, and nothing makes me happier than getting a mail or getting hit up by a new artist, an artist I've never heard of, going, hey, here I am, this is me, check this out. And like I love diving into their worlds, and like I hope through these sorts of conversations, I expose myself to new audiences also, that like there's a chance. Yeah,
I have a feeling that, because even through these conversations, I have a feeling that a lot of artists are getting the confidence to reach out to professionals from different parts of the world, which maybe they wouldn't have done previously. Maybe they had never even heard of these people previously. There's a lot of people who can do a lot more than I can do for them out here in Beirut. So I always see this as an opportunity. And when I look at what's happened with the live streams, and I see what Tourmaline is doing, for instance, and I keep thinking to myself, this is here to stay. Like the live stream thing it's not going away, in my opinion. And I wanted to see, in your opinion, you said that there's already too much happening, and it's a bit crazy because it's only been a few months since the live stream has blown up, in 3 or 4 months since COVID-19 came into our lives. So where do you see that going? I mean, I read the article that said that BTS had a show where they made $20 million.
Yeah.
The highest grossing concert in history was the Rolling Stones with $7 million. So you're like, is this because they did one show and that's it? That's their only show of the year? Or can they pull this off every month? Like, you know what I mean? Is that,
yeah.
What do you see is going to happen with the live stream thing?
Yeah, so that concept of digital venues, I think I think is good. I see potential in that. Something that I've been exploring in my head a little bit that I haven't really settled on yet is is digital touring.
Okay.
Targeted touring, bands playing through different, and I've seen it a little bit already. Bands playing through different venues, accounts, and different venues. Different venues, audiences.
Okay.
So I'll go live on Beirut Jam Sessions one night. I'll go live on LO the next. I'll go live on so that way I'm touring the world. I think that's quite interesting. Yeah, the BTS thing was incredible, wasn't it? It's like,
I mean, there's no precedent. Like it's never been done before. So now that it exists. My only question is, can they pull it off more than once? Because I saw that Laura Marling had a show in the Union Chapel that she pre-recorded, and it went as a live stream, and she made, I think, £90,000 or something. Whereas if she had done the show and sold it out, she would have made £14,000. But does that mean that all of Laura Marling's fans watched her on that specific stream, or does that mean that she's going to have to offer something different every month if she's going to do this? So yeah, that's the real question, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm working with Urban Sessions. It's a live streaming venue, live streaming platform, and we're seeing, we're starting to do repeat bookings now.
Okay.
So we have artists that they had a successful show and then they're booking another one 6 weeks later, and they're
just I want to know your thoughts now on how would South African artists if a South African artist or a Lebanese artist had to expose themselves to a different audience today, quick fixes for them, what would you say?
Connect with an artist from another territory, collaborate. Yeah, connect with organizations, with promoters, with venues even. Yeah, network.
Okay, because I like the idea of the digital venue thing. I never thought of it that way. I mean, obviously with Beirut Jam sessions, I did that, but I never looked at it in that sense. That it's a digital venue or an organization. And what's the current just before we end off? I want to know what's the current status in South Africa and in the Netherlands with regards to live concerts. Are they coming back anytime soon, or what's it sounding like?
South Africa is still very uncertain. Yeah, I mean, no one's booking anything. There's a few drive-in concepts, and one of them Park It Live that I'm working on, that are in progress, but the legislation still isn't written for that. So there's still a bit of uncertainty there. From a live perspective, not much at all. The thing now, which I think is a common thread in many territories, is at least bands can get together, 5, 6, 10 people, and record a performance or stream a performance. So at least you're getting some kind of like band live stream. The Netherlands, a bit more positivity. Cinemas and theaters are opening. And the ban is till 1st September, and apparently we'll hear some more news in a couple of weeks, closer towards September time now. But yeah, it seems like there's a bit more happening. There's also some really interesting stuff happening here, like non-music. So some of the music promoters are doing things like a glamping festival, which is a camping experience with like fine dining and fun activities and, water sports, because it's summertime and it's school holidays, but no music, so no event gathering. Okay. You can still social distance at like in a glamping environment.
Okay, that's, I mean, it's a good start, I guess, for stuff. Because here I can't really compare, because here that's it. No one really cares anymore whether we have the virus or not. Everyone's out and they're just like, we're protesting. Some people are like, that's it. We have to make our businesses work. We have to open our bars. People have started going out again. So I don't know what that's going to lead to. I think it's a positive thing. I mean, we can't stay stuck at the same time, because there's such a crazy situation here with the inflation, with everything that's going wrong here. I think these little things like having just a bar opening, having a beer is not bad at this point in time. So
yeah, it had a huge difference here. Like it's obviously it's summertime, like I said, and just being able to walk out down the street and it's like 9 p.m. It's sunlight. It's a lovely warm evening, and the terraces are full with people being relatively responsible, having a beer, but there's laughter, there's chatter, there's life, and that's made a huge difference emotionally.
Yeah, of course. I think at the beginning it was very tough for everyone, everywhere around the world. But I guess we all adapt. Everyone adapts, and we have to just go along with it, and be proactive, as you said, and we see what happens. So, yeah. Anyways, Blaise, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
I hope we'll be able to grab a beer in the Netherlands soon, or out here in Beirut. And it was great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Sure. I hope there's a little bit of value somewhere in it. Like
there's a lot of value in there. Trust me. I'm
always open to talking. I just hope that I hope that somebody can get something out of it, and that I'd love to I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love to meet some new artists or some new people out of it. And I also wanted to just take this opportunity to thank you for all the work that you're doing. Like for me sitting over here, I mean, we met what 9 years ago, even longer now, with the Wonton Bishops, right? You know, and like we've stayed in contact, and we've talked about this incredible opportunity of like building a touring circuit through South Africa, through Europe, through the East, you know. So it's been incredible, like having that relationship with you. And over this lockdown and the past few months, I felt a lot closer to you. Being able to watch the Beirut Jam sessions, you know, being able to see these artist development workshops that you're doing, and like you're doing amazing work, and it's reaching so far beyond like your immediate circle. That thank you, man. Like
it means a lot impact. You, man. It means a lot, because in my mind, and I don't say this even if anyone is watching or whatever, like in my mind, I've always used you as a benchmark, even though we met that long ago. But I've always said this guy does crazy stuff. Like I've been following this guy do crazy stuff in South Africa. Then I saw you move to the Netherlands, and I see you doing stuff there. And I'm like, man, this guy is just non-stop, you know. So the feeling is more than mutual. So thank you again, really. Thank you.
Lovely to speak to you finally, like to actually have a nice conversation.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, man.
Okay, speak soon. Cheers.